So welcome all of you to PMS AIF World's webinar today with ASK Investment Managers. We have Nimesh Mehta and Prateek Agarwal from the team. So before we begin, PMS AIF World is a content-backed analytics-based wealth advisory firm, and we manage close to 400 crores in assets across 100 families and about NRIs. So our motto or our driving vision is informed investments, and to keep that spirit alive, we do a lot. We are doing this current series of webinar. You can check the other webinars lined up on pmsifworld.com. And so without further ado, I will give the floor to Mr. Prateek Agarwal to take us through a brief introduction on what is, on what markets are in these scenarios and everything about their portfolio in a brief. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, PMS World, for this opportunity. Good evening, everybody. I will spend some 4-5 minutes on talking about what we do, and then some time on our outlook on the market and how are our portfolios positioned. So we seek to deliver preservation of capital and growth of capital to our clients. Our clients are people who have already made monies, and preservation as a goal is a very important goal in itself for them. How do we do this? We do this by investing into businesses which are high quality, generating a lot of free cash flows, and at the same time have a good management at the helm which is able to invest those cash flows for future growth. So imagine this, there is a business which is making a good amount of money, more money than other businesses. So if in India, the average ROCs are sub 15%, our threshold for an IP portfolio itself is 25% of return on invested capital. So the business is making a lot more money, and while it is doing so, it is able to grow strongly, not again for 1 year, but multiple years. So, think about each step, and you will understand the extent of difficulty a business undergoes. So what comes out of all of this process is a set of very few companies which we believe in many ways are best in India. Now, if we build a portfolio of such companies, the portfolio brings with it a very good character of doing well, relatively speaking, when the markets fall, and at the same time compounding over a period of time. So many names in the portfolio have compounded well. They have made a new all-time high 11 out of the past 11 years, examples being Asian Paints, HDFC Bank, and maybe a Pidilite, which form part of our India Select and IP portfolios. So our simple thought is 100 rupee EPS increases to 120, increases to 140, 160 in as linear a manner as possible. The value of the enterprise is increasing. Markets has its moods. Give market time. It will business appropriately, and investors will make money. In the event, hence, of what we are witnessing just now, a crack in the marketplace, it is a great opportunity almost every time for investors to come in. The businesses are going to be there. They are some of the best in the land. India as a country has a great potential to grow, and these businesses are typically nicely positioned. So that is basically what we do. So our portfolios tend to be low in risk while we are very, very concentrated. Our risk matrices stand out, And in combination with that, over the past 10 years of existence of our products, we have managed to generate an alpha of like 10% over the indices on a compounded manner. So that was on the fund philosophy. What do we seek to deliver, and how do we go about doing it? Coming down to the times, the present times, what is the feeling? Point one. Let me do it in point form so that people can understand and take away. Valuations are cheap. Okay, look at it this way. It's just that the factories which are standing, the shops which are standing have taken a holiday. Okay, and have and in a week, 10 days, they will come back and restart. Business will restart with and many of the businesses will restart as if nothing has changed, while some will get impacted for sure. We do believe hence that we get a U-shaped recovery. So it will be a strong recovery, but not strong enough to cover up for the damage that something like an aviation, entertainment kind of businesses will encounter. So those will continue to feel stress for some time. If you look at a valuation parameter like market cap to GDP, and when I make a case that all of your plants are there, all of your shops are there, all of your buildings are there, that is what a GDP is all about. In terms of what has been achieved, it is there. You are getting the same at 50% of earlier value. In 2007 peak, it was 100%, even over 100% for some time. That kind of indicates deep value in the market. Our interest rates are some of the lowest today, historically speaking. That makes the value of future earnings discounted to the present higher, and our current P's should be higher than long period average. If you look at where P's are, even on a very conservative basis, we are lower than what we have seen over last 10 years. So FY20 could do like 485 kind of a EPS on Nifty. We were growing at a 9% clip as of end of third quarter. Quarter four could be a degrowth quarter, which will pull down averages for the year. FY21 over FY20 could be a very small growth. That is assuming we start on 3rd of May. If we extend that, maybe there won't be any growth, or could be a degrowth kind of a year. But even if we assume the same number, or for sake of calculations of 500 kind of EPS for 21 over 20, we are today trading at sub 19 times 1 year forward, which is lower than 10-year average. And like I said, with yields lower than long period average, we should be higher. So on P is also the most followed valuation parameter. We have comfort on our side. Second, this year, of course, in terms of GDP growth, we do believe will be close to 0. 1 week delay is a percent gone from GDP. So if you get a postponement in lockdown by another week, take that 1% away. 2 weeks, take 2% away. So that's the kind of the year we are in. Coming down to sectors and how are we positioned, in times which are uncertain, it is good to be with businesses where there is no leverage. So that is the first box. Are the businesses levered? Are the businesses unlevered? If you look at our portfolios, any portfolio across the firm, be it an IP portfolio, be it in India Select or a growth portfolio, our non-financial businesses have cash on books. Okay, let me give you a small example. If you have cash on book, you are able to handle the channel much better in these difficult times versus people who have debt on books. Okay, and post the crisis, do expect expect their position in the marketplace to improve. I think many of you guys would be encountering that, people who are in business. Your heart would definitely be with businesses, with OEMs who are holding better in these times versus people who are trying to squeeze you more because they themselves are in stress. Second point is commodity versus branded. Now, this is a year which is a low growth year. I made a case for India being 0% growth or a negative 1%, 2% growth possibility, depending on how long the lockdown happens. Imagine what it is for the world. Okay, in a low growth kind of a situation, it is very, very difficult to build a case for stronger commodity prices, especially with the kind of issues that we see in the world today. Commodity prices should be expected to remain low. Practically all commodities are seeing soft prices. Practically all industrial commodities are seeing soft prices, and we all have tracked oil from a $60 in period before the crisis. We are today sub 20 on both Brent and NYMEX. Now, oil has linkages across fuel spectrum. Oil goes down, gas goes down. Both are linked. If both of them are soft, can coal be higher? Probably no. Oil, petrochems are derived from oil. If oil is down, petrochem are cheaper. Then the chemical chain derived from ethanol, which is vegetable product, will also have to compete and put downward pressure on even the veg oil chain. So point is, practically all commodities will be soft. They will remain soft, and users of commodity with pricing power hence look very good. We should then expect strong gross margin expansions with branded businesses, strong with strong positioning in the marketplace. This was the theme in 2020, in financial 2020 as well, where a lot of the operating profit increase came in from gross margin increases. I think more of that will come from gross margin increases in financial 21 versus 20. So if you look at the portfolio that we run, our exposure to consumers is between 30 and 35%. Today with price changes, maybe I'll put it closer to 35%. This is the part of the market which has come back very strongly. This is the part of the market which was holding up nicely. So if you see our performance, Jan-Feb, we were actually positive when markets went down. In March, we fell with the market. Some of our portfolios did better than the market, and in April, we are coming back stronger than the market. Two spaces which are non-branded but are doing very well are specialty chemicals and cement. Now, cement, once again, is an energy-intensive commodity. It is a commodity, but it has pricing power. ACC results are out. You guys would have seen the gross margin expansion that the business reported. I think everybody else or many other cement companies would also report something similar. And mind you, this was fourth quarter. The bigger impact of input price declines would occur in the first quarter of this year. And we should see even better gross margins for cement companies. In terms of demand, 80+% of cement demand accrues from rural India and government and various schemes that the government runs. So versus others, the demand supply situation does present a better picture. So, and specialty chemicals, of course, with the China to India shift, Western world trying to move the concentration on China and trying to develop a second source. We are the natural second source in chemicals. We are getting it. China is large, but apart from India, there's practically nobody else. You need an ecosystem to have a chemical factory. India has developed that, so we will benefit because of that. Western world doesn't want it. East can't do it. So anything that moves out of China comes here. A small move away is a large percentage improvement for us. So if you look at our portfolio, cement and specialty chemicals, more focused on pharmaceuticals is what is the other part of the portfolio. Now let me come down to financials. That's a beaten down part. That's a part which, if things normalize fast, may prove to be beaten down more than what the fundamental damage has been. Okay, if I split financials into three, the fee-based financials, life insurance, general insurance kind of businesses, the corporate bankers and the retail bankers. The fee-based financials actually benefit. General insurance, without any if and then benefits. It benefits because there are less cars on road, less accidents happen and hence less claims. The health insurance is the need of the hour. It's a top of the mind recall. As soon as you can get medical done, I think the move up in medical insurance by these companies would be sharp. It is the most profitable part of the spectrum of services they offer. So general insurance is a winner. Life insurance, there is some amount of damage to the balance sheet because of fall in equity markets, but overall in terms of business opportunity improves. If you look at these two businesses actually benefit from the kind of environment we have. Corporate bankers have an issue. These are the guys who had issues last time also. They have issues because builders get into problems with whatever is happening. Entertainment, flights, hotels, all levered businesses feel stress. So, that's the part of the portfolio which will have stress. In terms of our exposure, we are not there. In an IP portfolio, zero exposure to any corporate bank. In India Select portfolio, we do have some exposure to one, which an ICICI, where we do believe most of the growth over the past period has come from retail rather than corporate. And yes, we are exposed to life and general insurance in a big manner, way more than actually index doesn't have any, so we way more than the index itself. Lastly, the retail financiers, the fear here is very high. What happens to micro? What happens to, for example, a LAP kind of a product? What happens to two-wheeler and the auto loans? Because if autos are not running, how will they pay loans back? Here the thoughts are simple. We are with the best of the names. We are with the fastest growing businesses who have been able to come out stronger from Demon and GFC. And we do believe that for the weaker sections of the society, the government has been giving out some money. It will continue to do so more into the future as well, which will keep the NPA levels lower than what the stock prices are building in. So if you look from our eyes, we do believe in the marketplace today, financials are probably more damaged versus other parts, and they need to be up on their feet. Otherwise, economic recovery will not find feet. Hence they could be leaders to the rally going forward. That is how our portfolios have been positioned in terms of EPS growth. If market does close to zero in 21 over 20, even in that situation, we do believe, given our choices of companies, we should be able to deliver significantly higher EPS growth, maybe between 5 and 10% over the numbers registered in FY20. In FY20, by the way, till Q3 December numbers, our EPS growth was 30%, or in that vicinity, versus the index, which had done 9%. So after, of course, Q4, it will go down a bit, but we had a big alpha over the index in terms of EPS growth of the portfolio versus that of the index. And on top of that, we believe 21 could still have an edge, and that should be the reason why we believe we could continue to do better versus the index going forward. I'll stop here, and
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Pratik. We will take a question now. So you won't be stopping. You will be answering questions now. So at PMSCIF World, we have seen most, webinars. The first question being asked, give us sectoral views. But thank you for giving us a detailed sectoral view. So we'll take some questions on the portfolio now. So the first question on the portfolio, and this, I want both Mr. Nimesh and Pratik you to answer. The question is, does the huge AUM have any bearing on ASK IP's performance, and if so, how, and why? So that's the question. Over to you.
So let me go first, and then Nimesh can develop that. So we believe we are able to invest well whatever we get. So yes, IP is the largest PMS scheme in the market today. We are very proud of that. You should look at quarter by quarter, year by year performance of an IP versus other stuff that we do. In most periods, it is very, very close to what our other portfolios are performing. It has been very disciplined. It has delivered very, very consistent performance. So if you just look at the numbers, please share if you spot any weakness. You will yourself understand that we are able to manage current sizes well. We are able to do so because of our focus on risk control, which includes liquidity control. So we want to build portfolios where we have strong growth in combination with strong quality, and done in a manner that the illiquid part of the portfolio does not grow beyond control. Now, the least liquid part of the portfolio is just about 10%. That's the budget that we have. Today, we are able to manage within that. So, in case we start to hit our limits, the way forward is to increase the number of names. That option is something which is always there. So instead of a 20 stock portfolio today, actually the portfolio is less than 20. Versus a 20 stock portfolio, we could be running with a 23 stock portfolio. As soon as you increase the names in the least liquid part, least bucket, the size that we can manage goes up sharply, and it goes up even more if from 23 we increase it to 25. We have already told our distribution channel that we have this in mind. As and when we feel the constraint, we will probably do the same. But as of now, like I told you, we are not even at 20. So in the same construct, we can go some more distance. But yes, when time comes, we will expand it a bit. To our mind, we are like $1.5 billion at the peak. Now with the market, it has fallen a bit. We could go to $2 billion of size in the current itself. And after that, some more by changing the construct. So we believe we are still able to manage quite well. If Nimesh has more to add, he can add.
We will
so I'll just
Nimesh's answer. Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just add, and this is one. I will say this is one of the misnomer or the forced conclusion in our industry. Every time we were at 5,000, I had the question 7,000, 8,000, 10,000. So what I did that, let us take a live example. As on 31st Jan 2020, IEP as a concept was the single largest strategy with close to 11,300 crores of assets managed. what we did that is check that what is the last 1 year return. The 1 year return for IEP as on 31st March, 31st Jan 2020 was 21.6%. Then we took average of all the mutual funds greater than 1,000 crores. The average is 12.2%. And for all the mutual funds less than 1,000 crore, the 1 year return is 10.8%. The same data points is for 3 year and 5 year. So according to me, size actually brings accountability and fiduciary responsibility, which Pratik beautifully explained that how we manage the portfolio. And I would say size actually helps the client bring consistency and predictability with a lot of liquidity in the portfolio.
So thank you, Nimesh, and I will move on to the next question by congratulating you and Pratik on the AUM and the performance. So we'll take the next question. So the next question is, ASK has typically looked at building multi-cap portfolios. So even your oldest portfolio has been known as a multi-cap portfolio. So with a large cap orientation, of course, how does ASK view mid-caps or small caps or the broader market at this junction? And the audience wants to know that.
Yeah, sure. So let me start by saying that we are not cap focused. And since we are not cap focused, we are multi-cap. It is not that we are multi-cap and hence we have to be, for large cap and so on. We go where there is quality and where there is growth, and work in the parameters of risk control, ensuring adequate liquidity for our investors and for ourselves to be able to change portfolios in a meaningful manner, to be able to correct portfolios if the situation so warrants. In any portfolio that you look at, we will have a mix of large caps and mid caps. We have nothing against anybody. We want a combination of high quality and high growth. If there is a business in the mid cap space which is making more money than other businesses in this space and hence is the leader in terms of quality, and with it is growing stronger than the others in the same space, we are very happy to look at those names. In fact, in an IP portfolio, there are several names which are not so large even now, while they may have performed very well for us. So names like PI, Astral, have multiplied on us. Even a Bajaj Finance, Finserv Group was a mid cap when we bought. They multiplied on us. Some of them continue to be small. But at the same time, what are we trying to do? We are trying to be with businesses which will increasingly be bought as, let's say, India as a country gets richer. Okay. And the size of the pond for these businesses increase over a period of time. We are not talking static pond. Okay, and hence as the businesses are growing, the opportunity set that they are trying to address is also growing. So the key thing that you should look for in our portfolio is the growth in EPS that is being delivered by our names. Be it larger names or smaller names, almost without exception, the names in the portfolio continue to deliver strong EPS growth. This is where our thought process is different from others in the industry. Most people believe small and mid deliver you strong growth. We say it is a combination of quality and growth that is important. It is nothing to do with caps. In fact, if we analyze, then the accidents that happen to small and mid, which cause them a lot of damage, is way higher than what happens to the larger part of the market. And that said, it is again not true that larger companies don't evaporate. So, we had large telecom companies, monopoly telecom companies seem to be efficient, like a BSNL, MTNL in the late 90s, early 2000s, they have vacated the marketplace. Similarly, on the private side, you had the House of Birlas making cars. You had some of the best known companies making cars in the 90s were part of the indices, and when the markets opened up, they evaporated. They don't do cars anymore. They may be doing something else. So that is the thing. It is not large. It is not small. That survives and does well. It is a combination of quality and growth, and we go where we find them. Yes, size does pull us back from building a larger part of the portfolio from the smaller part of the market. I would accept that. But at the same time, I had explained to you that had there been a higher opportunity and a sizable alpha was to be made from there, we would have split our position in the less liquid part to benefit from that. Instead of a construct of 20 names at 5% each, we could have gone to 23 names, 6 names being at 2.5% each. The fact that we haven't kind of means that the mid part of the portfolio, smaller mid than the small cap part of the market, probably does not offer what we seek in any great abundance. In fact, if you look at the funds which are positioned there, we would believe our performance has been better than most of them, most of the period.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we, when we look at the market and we look at smaller mid caps, as per SEBI definition, anything beyond 100 is a mid. So when I say mid, it is beyond 250. Smaller mid cap and small cap, the risk that you are taking is very high degree of liquidity risk, very high degree of governance risk. This is a part of the market which is less tracked, less followed, etc. Versus that, if you take a higher degree of single sector concentration risk, we believe in financials, if you are focused on that part, can give a higher, return for the risk that you are taking versus the small and mid cap part of the market. And towards that end, we have a financial opportunities portfolio that we run.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next question, I want Mr. Nimesh to take this, and of course, Mr. Prateek, if you have something to offer, to pitch in. So the question is, after Franklin Templeton's latest concerns, it is a lot more evident that mutual funds run a huge risk when redemption pressure hits. So in this context, PMS offers a more customized portfolio and individual demat portfolios. So do you think that PMS makes a lot more sense now, and B, should SEBI look at revising the ticket size, keeping that view in mind? Sorry, Nimesh, I'm putting you in a fix, but please do answer.
So I will not comment on the ticket size, but I will surely comment on the PMS structure, so to say. So, but also in the PMS structure, let us be clear. The success depends on the underlying stocks which a portfolio manager buys and the liquidity it has. Even in the case of PMSs, we have had experiences where people have bought very small names and therefore liquidity has been a challenge. Now, let me share my experience as an investor for more than a decade, both in a PMS and a mutual fund, and why I prefer a PMS over a mutual fund structure. First, due to transparency in the PMS, in the COVID-19, I could see, so I'm an investor in the PMS which we have. And what I could see is that the portfolio of stocks I'm very comfortable with. And therefore, if I believe that this will do well, I can top up my money and get averaging into the same stocks which I can see in the PMS. But unlike in the mutual funds, I'm not sure. First, the portfolio is not live. Second, in terms of it is also not necessary that the fund manager will buy the same average the stocks. He may buy a new stock also in the portfolio. That's point one. Two, second, if I want to redeem in the PMS, it is independently traded or executed in my PMS account or demat account. and therefore there is no impact to the other investors. Unlike in the mutual fund, like what had happened right now, a huge redemption can lead to a challenge or a illiquidity for most of the investors in the mutual fund side as well. Third, I think the continuous flow which comes in through by SIP, STP, SWP, ensures or which makes a fund manager continue to change the portfolio, which does not in the case of the PMS, because the PMS manager holds the model portfolio and continues to hold it for longer period of time. That is my fourth point, that in a PMS, we could see a portfolio, as Prateek mentioned, there are stocks which have been holding for 8, 10, 12 years on a longevity basis, but I'm not sure how many mutual funds, like in the case of Bajaj Finance, we held it when it's a mid cap and we still hold it when it's a large cap. But because of the definition of the SEBI regulations, a mutual fund manager may not be able to hold on to and stick to the portfolio. So these are the 4 reasons I think I would prefer a PMS structure advantageous over a mutual fund structure.
Okay, thank you. But this answer raised more questions than it solved. So there are follow-up questions, like there are focus portfolios and etc., which we will not take at this point in time. But Prateek, do you want to add to this, or should I ask you the next question, which I think you will be able to answer better?
Go ahead.
So,
on this, let me just add a point.
Sure.
There are different management styles.
Yeah.
There are management styles which require you to change portfolio more often, and for that, a mutual fund kind of a platform is better suited. A PMS platform is better suited for a strategy which is low in churn, like the one that we follow. So that is one. Second, in a PMS, our biggest differentiator has been to do what we do best. Okay, and go to the clients and try and find the clients who want what we do best. The big difference between a PMS and a mutual fund is that mutual fund is a distribution-led business. It's a brand-driven business. There is very little communication between the fund house and the end investor. The end investor buys with a particular notion in mind. He has never heard, never seen, never met the fund manager. Here, what do? We say we want long period investor only. We have 3-to-1 exit loads on the fund. Whatever be the structure, that ensures the investor comes into us with a long period commitment. Okay, when an investor comes, he is somebody who is being handled through a distribution channel, which itself is very, very informed. So we are with 90% plus of our business comes through, let's say, 10 top banks. Who are able to select customers who want what we offer, and then when marriage is done, expectations are set, and then our job is to keep meeting those expectations, keep following the manner of investing that we do. Short period underperformances, outperformances are something that our investors take it in their stride. In times like these, when markets have fallen, we actually see more inflows than anything else. So that is something that PMS one is able to do. In a mutual fund, you are less able to do. My last point is that in a PMS platform, if you try and ape what a mutual fund is doing, you will not succeed. You will hurt yourself very badly.
Yeah.
So it is different. There are things for which a PMS platform is very nicely suited. It is not retail selling. You have to be best at what you are doing, at least in your own mind, so that the channel believes you are one of the best and is able to communicate the same to the end investor. Okay, it is not a brand that you are selling. You are selling something special, some exclusive expertise.
Thank you. So I will conclude that answer as to each his own. So whatever is your end goal, choose your investment vehicle as such.
Absolutely.
So the next question is very interesting, and either one of you can answer this. So I think this is asked by someone who has read your product brochure well. So the question is, how does ASK judge promoter skin in the game? So that's a major point in all your fund communications. Prateek, would you like to dwell on that? How do you judge, promoter skin in the game?
Yeah. So let me go into a bit of history. Why did this product happen? It is clear that growth and sustained non-dilutive growth of EPS is something that makes a business more valuable over a period of time, and marketplace reflect that, right? So who is able to grow faster? Obviously people who have skin in the game, have fire in the belly. They want to make themselves richer, and if the corporate governance is of the highest quality, then if smaller investors like ourselves and our investors associate with these kind of promoters, we would also make money along with them. The key point being, the governance standards should be very high. Now, how do we then parameterize it? What is a significant skin in the game? Okay, so one way of looking at it was a meaningful equity percentage that allows you to win over the board, get things passed and get things done, which is what an entrepreneur brings to the table. So we said the skin in the game we will measure by having by the promoter entity having let's say 25% minimum equity holding. I mean, we would prefer it to be higher, so that the interests of the smaller investors and of the promoter are very well aligned.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is actually, this is something that you both should answer. The question is, ASK has 3 strategies. So India Select, Growth and IEP. So can you quickly tell us which strategy is for what kind of investors, and what is your recommendation in these times, which is a strategy that one should look at more passionately over the other? Nimesh, would you like to answer that first?
I'm okay, but Prateek?
Okay, let me try and then you come in, but I was happy if you answer that first. No, so all of our strategies are close to our heart, okay? And if you look at last several years of performance has also been close to each other. How are our other strategies different from, let's say, an IEP? I made a point that we want a combination of quality and growth. So quality as a requirement stays constant across what we do in the house. How do we get growth? Is a different facet of the marketplace. In an IP, our thought is go by the promoter, and I shared that in the previous question. However, by putting the restriction in the manner that we have, skin in the game, meaningful skin in the game, and hence a 25-26% equity holding by the promoter entity in our market precludes us from investing into professionally run businesses, for example, or MNC run businesses. Okay, now if one comes to the current marketplace, many of the life insurance, general insurance, all of the mutual fund businesses, these are businesses which are having very long runway to growth, have the power of the franchise behind them, because of the ownership constraint and IP is not able to invest in while let's say a select or a growth portfolio is able to invest into. So it gives us a degree of freedom more. Okay, and in investing, if you have more freedom, you have to be yourself more disciplined. In the past, there has been a year where the higher degree of freedom has actually hurt portfolio performance because we use that freedom to invest into PSU names, for example, and damaged the performance. We do believe we have learnt our lessons well, and going forward we will stay way more disciplined. And if we are able to do that, we do believe a select or a growth portfolio could have a small edge over an IP. So, IP is a super disciplined, very tight construct, very, very smooth kind of performance over very long periods of time. There is nothing like an IP in the market. Whatever I say, please remember that. All that I am saying is, we keep learning. We are a learning organization. We learn from our mistakes. We do believe we have learned from what happened to select and a growth 2 years back. And given that, we should be able to handle our freedom, 1 degree of freedom more, much better. And hence, going forward, small, but yes, we do believe these portfolios could deliver slightly better than IP. At least that is what we believe.
Sure, Nimesh, your take quickly. We have a couple of more questions to answer. So
let's take more questions because I think Pratik has answered in detail on that piece.
Okay.
And let's take other questions. I think
so this question is slightly a bit rhetorical. So ASK has now seen about 4 or 5 market cycles, and there was .com bubble, there was GFC, Demon, and so many other things. So what has been ASK's learning as a fund manager and as a portfolio house and delivering consistent return over all these periods? So Nimesh, your views first on this, and then we'll come to Pratik.
Okay, sure. So at this point in time, when you say market fall, I'm reminded of a quote by Desmond Tutu, which says, what we learn from history is that we don't learn from history. And so, we can go back to the last large fall, which is global financial crisis. And if we see, there was a fall in the market of Nifty of about 60%. And it took about, I think, so about 25 or 27 months to recover back to its high. But within that, you could see good quality companies recover anywhere between 4 months to about 2 years' time. Let's go to a very recent example in IP only. Let's dwell into it. And Pratik touched upon earlier, it's in demonetization phase. Now, in the case of demonetization, IP portfolio fell 17% in the 1 month period. Okay, if a customer or investor would have done nothing, then he recovers the lost ground in about 92 days time. But the learnings has been there, and we measured that if investor had done 20% top up to his investable money, what he had put, he would have recovered in about 79 days, which is about 20% before the normal investor. And if an investor would have topped up close to about 40 or 50%, he recovers in just about flat 40 days, which is 60% before the investor who just sits and does nothing. So our suggestion and submission at this point in time, and Pratik also mentioned he'll share, that invest and top up in the portfolio which you are comfortable. You are able to see the IP portfolio today, growth portfolio, India Select portfolio, wherever your conviction has been higher, see the underlying portfolio. And if you put in a little bit of money now, the probability and the history suggests that you will be able to recover the lost ground faster than the investor who does nothing.
So the mention of top-ups bring me to a modification to your question, Pratik. When you answer this, also do mention what is your advice to an investor who is a fully invested, let's keep fully invested aside, who is partially invested or who is going to make a top up, how do you guide them? Is what, Prateek, you will have to answer in addition to the previous question.
Sorry, because you asked this one, the previous one slipped from my mind a bit.
The previous one was what has been Ace Case and your personal learning over the market cycles, and
Yes.
the addendum to it is how do you guide an investor now?
Yeah. So, Nimesh answered it from the investor's point of view. I would answer it from the fund manager point of view. Fund managers are guys with a lot of conviction. Okay, if something is good at 100, it becomes better at 80 and so on. So this is half a jest, but that is how we guys are, and many a times it is good to have processes take over. Risk control process is an extremely important process, and I think in case of markets being topsy-turvy, if risk management kicks in, then the manager is able to overcome the biases he or she may have and correct the portfolio. So in ASK, we have implemented, I would say, very good practical risk control kind of a process. Questions are asked if a name gets impacted more. For every fall, the intensity of the questioning keeps increasing, and minds then have to be applied and reapplied with higher intensity, and that results over time into a correct decision. We don't have a mechanical kind of a risk control saying if this thing happens, so you have to do this kind of stuff. But we work with putting in more heads on the problem, and there I would say that in our platform, we have a galaxy of people with a very wide, very long experience and a diverse experience to help the team take a correct decision. So, for example, the investment team has a Bharat Shah, who is the senior most money manager in business today. It has Sunil Rohakale, who brings with him a lot of banking experience. It has, of course, Asit and Samir Kotichas, who bring with them long period of investing experience and the practicality that is involved in investing. So the way we work is when there is a problem, some bit of problem is always left to the managers. But when the problem escalates, it gets pointed out by an independent risk guy to the risk committee. And then, with every increase in intensity, more number of people put in more of their time and effort to ultimately get the portfolio up and running. That, I think, is an excellent kind of a process that we have run. So what we have done in our house is to put into processes as many things that can be put into a process. So for example, number of stocks, fixing it at 20. Why not 12? Why not 13? No, 20. It ensures a good blend of diversification and concentration. What would be the sizing of each stock? Close to 5. People see our portfolios and know that this name has done very well, and hence the weightage is higher versus something else. How do we take profits? That again is a process. Over 7.5, you will see us take money off the table. All of those things have been put into a process. So we don't allow, most sources of risk to come in and hit us unprepared. That is
so Prateek, to cut you there, a process is one of the important learnings over the years. So now we will probably spend some time on where you gave away the advice to investors, and then we will try to conclude it. So how to look at investing now is what we learned from you.
So I made a point that valuations are good, and hence we should look at putting some money at the current juncture. Given the fact that we have seen a lot of fiscal support and monetary support coming across the globe, and in India as well, and more is expected. And the fact that as countries are moving over the COVID hump, we have seen markets celebrate that. So we do believe as we go deeper into May kind of a period, something similar should happen to Indian market as well. And to try and take benefit of that in the context of times, given the valuation, we should invest a bit of the money today in equities. But at the same time, uncertainties are high. Who knows after the lockdown is over, the cases increase again and we again going for the second lockdown. In which case we do expect market to fall back again from whatever levels it has reached and provide another opportunity. So, so there should be a part of monies for that eventuality. And today, going forward, Q1 is expected to be very weak. And we need to see how the markets respond to that reality. And hence, what we are suggesting is divide your investable surpluses into at least 3 buckets. Invest one now, invest one, after you see the response in Q1, invest one when you see the cases not ballooning and we actually going for the better times.
Thank you. That was very crisp. Nimesh, anything to add to that?
I think that's perfect. The volatility of the situation, it's always better that the investor divides the money into 6 installments, 3 to 6 installments, depending on his risk understanding. He should invest the money into equities in 6 months' time.
Thank you, Nimesh. Thank you, Prateek. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into
PMSCI
World's broadcast. You can know more about IEP growth or the India Select strategy at pmsciworld.com, and do connect with us for any further questions. I think which the questions we couldn't take, Nimesh and Prateek will be happy to take them on email. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Nimesh. Thank you, Prateek.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks.